We begin this hour with the Supreme Court, who will hear a case about President Trump's firing power over independent agencies. It comes after the president fired FTC Commissioner Rebecca Kelly Slaughter because her service was, quote, inconsistent with the administration's priorities. CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe joins us now to talk about that. So, Ed, we know that this case, at the heart of it, is about an expansion of the president's powers. And so what are you hearing from the White House about how they hope that this will play out and what it could mean potentially for the future?
Right. He is seeking an expansion of presidential powers, arguing that he can remove those subject matter experts, commissioners, members who serve on a little more than 24 alphabet soup boards, everything from the Federal Trade Commission to the Postal Service Board of Governors to the Commodities Future Trade Commission, the Commission on Civil Rights, Federal Maritime Commission, that he can fire them whenever for no reason. The Supreme Court's being asked whether or not presidential powers should extend that far, or whether these supposedly independent commissions, nonpartisan ones, that work on terms and time limits that are different than a presidential term, should be swayed and staffed at a president's whim. One of several cases regarding presidential powers that are working their way through the high court right now, and a big one because it could mean a complete remake of those dozens of agencies that oversee these various subject matters having to do with, consumer rights, civil rights, all sorts of safety standards, and, of course, a review of mergers and acquisitions and other economic matters.
All right. We'll be watching that, of course, Ed. So let's talk about what happened last night on 60 Minutes. As you know, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene accused President Trump of not taking concerns about affordability seriously enough. He's called it a Democratic hoax. And yet, as you know, the White House is planning a couple of things this week to try to bring prices down because they clearly understand that prices have risen.
That's right. And so we've seen now this morning the president on 60 Minutes asked about, or the president responding to Marjorie Taylor Greene on 60 Minutes, saying a little while ago on Truth Social that she is, quote, jilted, and said, quote, nobody could have changed her views so fast, and her views are those of a very dumb person, unquote. But she substantively suggested in that interview last night that he's failing to meet the mark on this issue. 36% of Americans now approve of his handling of the economy. You've seen that number slide over the course of this year in CBS News polling. The White House is stepping up its attempts to address this issue in the coming days. Over the weekend, they announced he signed something regarding making sure that food being imported into the country is being done so properly and at a cost-effective way so that grocery prices don't spike. You're going to see the president head to Northeast Pennsylvania tomorrow to discuss this issue in a key congressional district, a sign that the White House understands the politics of this could end up unfavorably for them in the coming months as the midterm election season gets underway, and Republicans will be graded on his economic stewardship. And we'll see whether or not he keeps up this idea that this discussion about affordability is actually a hoax or, in fact, something that voters are legitimately concerned about.
Okay. And Ed, before you go, you attended last night's Kennedy Center honors. And I think for a lot of people, it doesn't matter where you fall on the political spectrum. We can all celebrate the arts and celebrate the people who won this distinction, including I'm a huge Kiss fan. I'm a huge Michael Crawford fan. But I wonder, the president was the MC, which is like brand new, right? That's never happened before where the president, but he's a former television star. I know he cares a lot about how he looks on TV. So give us, you're a TV guy, I'm a TV guy. How'd he do?
Well, let's remind folks, CBS has the honor of airing the Kennedy Center honors. And as a White House correspondent, because the president and the Kennedy Center are involved in this, we get invited by CBS to attend. This was my 6th honors, I realized last night. Vlad, I've been here a while now. And the big difference was that, yes, the President of the United States, who normally sits in the president's box there in the Kennedy Center, instead took to the stage as, in essence, the night's host. Introduced the acts, explained why they were being honored, spoke several times, and you'll see this when the broadcast airs December 23rd on CBS and Paramount Plus, by the way. And he basically held the time and tried to serve as a traditional host would, reading off the teleprompter, explaining why they were honored. And again, with Sylvester Stallone, good friend of the president, but someone certainly worthy. A lot of focus on the fact that he wrote Rocky, not just acted in Rocky and created that iconic role. Michael Crawford, as you mentioned, the famed television and Broadway star, Gloria Gaynor, George Strait, and Kiss. Big fan of the Gloria Gaynor tribute. Country singer Elle King Who knew?
Yeah.
She sings disco.
Yeah, she was great. I saw clips that we put in my package this morning. And Kiss,
Yeah.
look, the story there, and we'll have that story for our viewers on CBS Mornings in a few days. But you know, they've not received industry respect for much of their career,
No.
even though they are one of the top-selling rock and roll acts of all time. And we talk about that in our interview. That's why this was so important for them. That's why they were so moved by this, because for many, many years, the industry snubbed them because they thought that they weren't legitimately worthy of things like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which they eventually got into in 2014. But they should have been in many, many, many years before that. So, yeah, I was really happy to see. And I guess the smoking guitar on stage, which we didn't have video of, but you saw to honor the late Ace Frehley, was pretty cool. So I hope to see that in the broadcast.
That was part of the tribute, and actually got to sit next to one of their sons, ironically, in the audience, and it's really cool to see the family members also enjoy this as well. So December 23rd on CBS and Paramount Plus, and you guys in your interviews on CBS Mornings in the coming days of all the honorees, right? Yeah,
we did. We will. Gail talks to Sly, and Nate talks to Gloria Gaynor, and I got a chance to sit down with Kiss, so it's going to be really cool.
Awesome.
Ed O'Keefe, my man, thank you very much as always. Get warm.
Take care.